All right, this is 8.2 notes on circles, day 2. Yesterday, we were given this equation. You can make any circle from this equation, where the center is h comma k and the radius is r. That is all you need, the center and the radius. So for today, we're going to be rewriting equations. Notice that number 1, okay, this form is not given as this. Okay, we need to have our equation in standard form, but this one is called, okay, we need to have it in standard form in order to easily graph it like we did yesterday. Right now, this is not in standard form, so we need to write this equation in standard form. How would we do that? Okay, well, notice what we've been given here. X squared plus 12x plus y squared plus 2y equals negative 28. So notice that here are the two x values, here are the two y values. Okay, we need to turn these into this, where it is x minus h squared and y minus k squared. Notice that these are two binomials that are squared. So what can we do here then? How can I turn x squared plus 12x into x minus h squared? Here's what we're going to do, and it's going to blow your mind. We are going to complete the square, ladies and gentlemen. Again, another very useful technique to turn this into this. To make this into standard form, we have to complete the square. Luckily, we've had lots of practice of this, so let's go ahead and get to it. Okay, so I'll start with the x's in red here. I'm going to do x squared plus 12x, and then I need to add some number, okay? And then I'm going to go ahead and do the same thing for the y, so plus y squared plus 2y plus some number. That is going to equal negative 28. Okay? So how do we get this number? Remember that little formula that we use. We do b over 2 squared. Oops. b over 2 squared. That gives us that new number. So if I look at my b here, this is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 6 squared is 36. So that's the number I add here. Okay? But recall, I just added this number, right, on the left side of the equation. So in order to keep this equation balanced, I need to do the exact same thing to the other side. I have to add 36 over here. So I have to add 36 over here. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing for the y's here. Oops. Do the exact same thing for the y's. Okay, y squared plus 2y plus some number. Well, here's my b. Divided by 2, you get 1. 1 squared is 1. So we have to also add 1 to this side. So what do we get here when I go ahead and add up all these numbers? Negative 28 plus 36 plus 1. Well, negative 28 plus 36, that would be 8, and then 8 plus 1 is 9. So we end up with 9 on this side, okay? So we have it equaling to 9. Now what we're going to go ahead and do next, now that we just created a PST, let's go ahead and factor this guy. Let's go ahead and factor this. This will become x plus 6 squared. Okay? This will become x plus 6 squared. Why? Because, just as a reminder, if I tried to factor this into two binomials, okay? If I tried to factor this into two binomials, okay? This would be x and x, because it's x squared. My signs are going to be the same. They're both going to be a plus, so plus and plus. And multiples of 36 that add to 12, well, that would be 6 and 6. So here, instead of writing x plus 6 out twice, we can just do x plus 6 squared. just a nice recap on that. Oops, let's go ahead. Oops, let's go ahead and just erase that whole thing. So this becomes, when I factor this, x plus 6 squared. Okay? So let's do the exact same thing for the y. Y squared plus 2y plus 1 will factor to y plus 1 squared. So look what we have just done. We have now turned this in to standard form. This is now x plus 6 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 9. We're finished. And I'll just go ahead and write it one last time in one color. So this is, oops. So this is x plus 6 squared plus y plus 1 squared equals 9. And there you go. So what is the center and what is the radius? Well, here's your h, here is your k. So your center, remember they're on the inside, so they are opposite. That would be -6, comma, -1. And then the radius is 3. So if I wanted to graph that, what would that look like? What would this circle look like? Okay, so the center is at -6, -1. So the center, which I will draw in red, -6, -1. Okay, and the radius is 3. So I'm going to go 3 in every direction. And then do your best to make this as nice a circle as possible. And there you have it. So this equation, this original equation, x squared plus 12x plus y squared plus 2y equals -28. Okay, if you put this in the calculator, it will give you this circle. But we just had to make sure that we completed the square, turn this into standard form. This is now standard form. Much easier to tell the vertex or the center and the radius. So let's try another. Let's try one on the next page. Let's go ahead and look at number 4, just to try another one that was more difficult. Not to say that this one's really that difficult, but if we're going to go ahead and complete the square, remember the first move of completing the square. Okay, the first move of completing the square is that we have to move C to the other side. So our first move right now is to move C. Now what is C? Well, C is just that extra number, which happens to be plus 37. This is not part of my x's and it's not part of my y, so I want to move this to the other side. So let's go ahead and minus 37 to the other side. So we now have x squared plus 10x plus y squared plus 8y equals -37. All right, so now what we're going to go ahead and do is do what we just did. So we're going to go ahead and complete the square here for the x's, and we're going to complete the square for the y's. So let's go ahead and do that. So this is going to be x squared plus 10x plus some number plus y squared plus 8y plus some number, and that's going to equal -37. Okay, so what number do we add for the x? Well, here's your b, divided by 2 and square it. That's going to be plus 25. For the y's, there's your b is 8, divided by 2 is 4, square it, that gives you 16. Now remember, we just added these two new numbers, so that means I have to add 25 to this side of the equation, and I have to add 16 to this side of the equation. And let's see what we get, okay? So we get -37 negative 37 plus 25 plus 16. We get a 4, so we end up with a 4 here on the other side. Okay, let's go ahead and factor then. Okay, this will become x plus 5 squared. Factor this, we get y plus 4 squared, and that equals 4. So that is your equation, which I'm going to write one more time down here, all in one color. So now that we have it in standard form, we know the center. We have our h and k, so that would be negative 5, comma, negative 4. The radius is going to be 2. So when I go ahead and graph that, okay, the center is at negative 5, negative 4. So that is going to be right there. Your radius is 2, so I count 2 in all directions. And we'll go ahead and connect. And there's your circle. Okay, and I'm going to do one more problem right here. I won't do much talking. I'm just going to go ahead and go through it. You should try it on your own to make sure. Just try it with me and make sure that we get the same answer. Finished.